Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm really excited to see what the runes have to say for this week ahead. But first, I wanted to talk about the Saturn retrograde that just happened. That happened I think June 5th. And we're also heading to some interesting energies coming up on the 13th through the 15th, where Mercury will be finally stationing in its beautiful directness towards Gemini, because it already stationed direct, it already left retrograde about a couple days ago, if I'm not mistaken. But now that it's moving into its home sign in Gemini and is going to continue forward through the entire sign without going retrograde, it's going to be a really different experience than the experience that we had back in May. Back in May, it was a little bit more heavy, heady, a lot of there were a lot of very strange things afoot. And with Mercury going to march right through Gemini, it's going to be much easier, I think, and especially leading to greater communication, some very unexpected connections, which is going to be fun. And for the Saturn retrograde period, I know I've been seeing a lot of people freaking out. I've been seeing people being like, oh my goodness, it's Saturn in retrograde, it's all going down. And it's not as bad as we think. Yes, Saturn is the planet of karma in a lot of traditions. Yes, Saturn does have a relationship to the ways in which we reap what we sow and the consequences of our actions, right? Saturn has a lot to do with justice. And so there is elements of Saturn that, yeah, you know, it can be a little severe, but with Saturn moving into retrograde in its home sign in Aquarius, it feels to me that we're going to be challenged to embrace new perspectives on the systems that we create for ourselves. As you guys know, I'm a really big proponent as a storyteller for the power of narrative and the ways in which narrative and narrative abilities create the identities that we have, create the identities that we want to engender, not only in our personal lives, but in our communities. Governments use narratives, right? Companies use narratives, think advertisements. There's all kinds of ways in which narration and narrative creativity is utilized to create or to produce systems of governance, systems of identity, systems of process, right? And with Saturn in retrograde, it's going to challenge us to look at the ways in which we produce our own narrative, in which we produce our own identity, and have a new perspective on it. So be prepared to have unexpected changes in your life, and I think they're going to be good. I feel good things from it, but I know sometimes change is not always easy to embrace, especially when the change tends to be a happy one. I feel like we tend to have a more difficult time when the change is happy, because it almost feels like we're negating all of the sorrows that we've gone through in our lives prior. And that's, not always the case. Sometimes it's good. It's a good thing, and sometimes we do have to leave those sorrows behind. It doesn't mean that, those sorrows didn't have meaning for us, right? So, enough on the Saturn retrograde. I want to see what the runes have to say for the week ahead. So let's get into it. Okay, we're keeping that one. We're gonna definitely keep that one. Okay, clear? Cool. That was interesting. Huh. I had a very brief glimpse into this, into this plateau. It reminds me of the plateaus that I've seen in Iceland, which are very beautiful. But it was just this very large expanse. There were mountains on the side, mountains in the distance as well. But there was a road that went through, and It was covered in snow, but the sun was rising. So for many of us, we may be feeling this week as if we're thawing, as if we're releasing any of the, we're going to be feeling lighter this week, feeling a little bit more relieved. As I know relief was the theme about 2 weeks ago, as I missed last week. Sorry guys. I know I missed last week, but about 2 weeks ago the theme was relief, and I really enjoyed that, and I feel like we're going to be experiencing a little bit more of that relief, and especially since we're transitioning soon into the new Celtic month of Duar, or Andur. I hope I pronounced that correctly, or the month of the oak. And the oak is a very powerful tree. It is beautiful, it is strong, it is associated with Jupiter, it has beautiful also energy connected to the water. So it's very abundant, very serendipitous, but it's also very peaceful, right? It provides shade, it provides a space for animals to find relief from the summer heat. So it feels like that, a theme of relief that's coming through. And I find this to be quite interesting because, as you know, I usually start here rippling outward. But there has been a theme for the past 2 weeks of the runes creating a single line going to a specific direction. And that for me represents our movement forward. So many of us are moving forward in a lot of our lives. In parts of our lives, whether it's our emotional life, our spiritual life, our physical life, or our emotional life. There could be aspects that you are dealing with, for example, let's say on the emotional plane. Let's say that you have been a people pleaser for a very long time, and now you're giving yourself the opportunity to say no, and use no as a complete sentence, and say, no, I'm good. Thank you. I can't do this right now. I'm going to protect my own energy, create the boundaries that I need, not only for others, but for myself. I think we often forget that the most important boundaries are the ones that we have for ourselves, and the ways in which we produce our boundaries to engender or to create more available energy for ourselves. So that's an example. Another example in terms of like the spiritual aspect of things, right? Being moving forward in our spirituality could feel for some, again, this is a general reading, so take what resonates, but for some it could feel as if you're hearing your spirits more, or hearing your guides more, or you're getting more clearer guidance when it comes to your intuition, or you might be noticing more signs. I'm feeling that many of us are seeing more synchronicities, seeing more numbers, or more license plates, or more, picking up on certain words that keep popping up, which I think is quite interesting. So whatever that may be for you, however it's showing up, it feels that there's a lot of movement forward, and we could expect that this week is no different. We can expect to see new opportunities, new connections, perhaps even new experiences that we may not have thought to have had before, and now we're allowing ourselves time to try it. So looking here, I'm going to move this guy here. It's a little hidden, which we'll talk about, but we have Othala, which was hidden under a blank rune, and it feels to me that we are uncovering our spiritual potential. We are uncovering our spiritual inheritance. We are diving deeper into the spiritual abundance that is available to us. That I heard earlier today, I was watching a YouTube video by White Rose Guidance. Love her videos. Very great stuff. For those of you who are interested in tarot readings. And she spoke about our energy as the source of our abundance, right? And I really enjoy that, because our spiritual inheritance is the natural abundance that dwells within us. And that natural abundance never goes out. We are always full of life. Even after death, we are full of life. Life never ends. Life never ceases to continue. It never ceases to flourish. And so to acknowledge that within ourselves, but to allow for the movements of seasons in our own life, is what creates the balance, where we are able to uncover the abundance that dwells inside of us, right? So I feel for many of us, this week is starting off with uncovering that abundance. Perhaps you're starting to realize, wow, yes, I look hot. Or, you start to think to yourself, wow, like I never thought I would look good in this article of clothing, and yet here I am, and it makes me feel really good. Or we can experience something like, I never knew that speaking my truth in this relationship or in this circumstance, even though it was difficult, is making me feel so much better. I feel such relief being able to speak to my partner, or speak to my spouse, or speak to speak to my boss and really tell them what I need to say, or express myself in a way that is beneficial to me. So however it's showing up for you. And of course we have here Yera, that is in the next rune ahead. And Yera for me represents the balance of seasons. It represents the movement of life. It's the dance. And so whenever I see Yera, I see completion of cycles. I see the closure of different ideologies, philosophies, thought processes, or practices that may have served you in the past, but now no longer are able to carry you as far forward as you need to go. And I also like how it fell on its side. And I'm seeing this as two hands that are making this gesture, right? And this to me, I know for some it looks like the Four of Pentacles, where he's holding that big pentacle in the middle. But to me it feels like I'm finding peace, I'm finding center, I'm finding my balance, feeling more peaceful. So I see that coming in over the weekend. So again, good communication, good relationships. Allow yourself to be surprised, because also you may be hearing from someone that you've been hoping to hear from. I don't know why that was a very specific message, but I see that with Ewas here, right? Which oftentimes represents good communication, right partnership. It represents, it feels very much like the Sun card and the Chariot card came together and created another card. Because it's great movement forward with great abundance, and it's happy. And so what I'm seeing over the weekend is that for some of us, we may be getting a message, or we may be getting a call to hang out from some friends that we haven't heard from for a while, or we may be getting an opportunity to experience something that we hadn't experienced before. I'm seeing some people going out to a new class, or trying out karate, or trying out something that you've been thinking of trying for a little while. And that's gonna bring a big boost to your confidence. And then I also see here we have Tirwas that fell on its side. And I find that to be interesting, because I just heard like go left, which which I think for me is like, if you normally go right, let's say you're walking down a road and you normally take a right? It feels to me like go left. Try something new, try something different. So in the week ahead, like towards Monday or Tuesday, we may be asked to try something differently. And what I'm feeling is not to knock that experience, not to pass on it just because it's something that you're not normally used to. And of course, mind you, you have to be drawn to it. Don't do something that you don't really want to do. But if it's something that you're like, it sounds interesting, but I don't normally do that, I think it might be something fun to try out. So that's what I see for the runes ahead. I'm very excited to see what the runes have to say for next week. But again, if you liked the video, please like and subscribe. I really like sharing this practice with you guys, and it really does help. And I'll see you guys next week here on the channel. All right, everyone? Bye.